Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Coming up on the First Take podcast, can the Heat three-peat and will the Thunder push through the NBA playoffs? Plus, will the Jets offense take off with Chris Johnson on the team? And how much better can Peyton Manning and the Broncos be next season? All that and more coming up on the First Take podcast, which starts right now. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Take. Gary Champion here with Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. We're all in house.
What's going on?
We are. Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys.
Yes, sir.
I'm in the house. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing well. Thank
you so much.
Shall we start with the show right away? Lots to talk about today.
It's a whole bunch to talk about.
Coming up on the show today, yes, the shaking of the head. You're already into it.
I am.
That means stay tuned, folks. The seedings are set for the East and the West, and we will preview the matchups as we head into the NBA playoffs. Plus, Chris Johnson signs a 2-year deal with the Jets. So what exactly does that mean for Mike Vick and Geno Smith? We will discuss the Jets. You have some inside information? No?
No.
All right. But first,
I do.
You do. The Thunder beat the Pistons 112-111. OKC found themselves in a must-win scenario to secure the 2 seed in the Western Conference. Kevin Durant with 42 points, including 21 in the fourth quarter. Let's listen.
The guys kept coming to me, and I just tried to be aggressive. We needed to win this game, man. It was a tough game all night. We gave up a lot of points, but we found a way to win.
Well, as you shore up things for the next couple of days before you play your first playoff game, what do you guys need to improve on before then?
We just need to clear our minds, relax, and just go out there and just follow the game plan and have fun. There's no X's and O's and schemes. We just need to clear our heads and relax.
Playoffs.
Yes, it is. Best time of the year.
42 points for KD, again 21 in the fourth quarter. Stephen A., surprised by the Thunder effort last night?
I am surprised by it, but pleasantly so. The playoffs are about to begin. They were securing the number 2 seed. They could have been a number 3 seed coming into last night's game if things had worked out differently. Either scenario, they would have ended up going up against the Golden State Warriors, or who they're going up against now, which is the Memphis Grizzlies. Either way you slice it, I just applaud the effort. I applaud the fact that guys that are paid to play love playing this game so much. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and those boys never cheat you with effort. So we got to appreciate that as a fan of the game and love it. The other side to it that I'd like to take is that they're just basically putting the basketball world on notice that they're coming, that they're not letting up on anybody at any time. They're going for the jugular. They're coming to finish people off. It was a tough game last night against the Pistons, far tougher than it should have been in my estimation. There is no denying that. But at the same time, again, they're not taking any days off. They're letting everybody know they're coming. And as we've projected them being the favorites out west, with Skip Bayless every other day wishing for somebody to get hurt, they won't be at 100%. So
I do not wish for anybody to get hurt.
You wouldn't mind it, though.
I wouldn't mind it, but I don't wish it upon anyone.
I'm not saying that you want people to be hurt and damages their career. But if they're hurt enough to miss the series against the San Antonio Spurs, it does not bother you.
Well, Lord knows my Spurs have missed enough games, right? They've been hurt enough.
In the end, I like what I'm seeing from them. I didn't like the fact that it was that tough, but I think they're just getting themselves ready for the postseason.
So you are bullish on the Thunder?
Yes, I am.
This was my reaction to last night. I'm flipping back and forth among 3 different games at once. I am checking out my Spurs just to make sure nobody gets hurt. And Manu Ginobili is playing into the third quarter. Pop, what are you doing? Take him out. Put him in mothballs. We got to get healthy for the playoffs. Okay, so I'm watching the Thunder, and the Thunder are like mailing it in like everybody else was last night. And I thought, okay, they're down 8 after 3. I can quit looking at the Thunder game because clearly Scott Brooks will yank KD, and certainly he will pull out Russell Westbrook, who we all know has been missing back-to-backs because of the knee that got operated on 3 times within 9 months over the last calendar year. And I quit watching for a long while, but I'm looking at my computer, I'm looking at the score, I'm thinking, how are they coming back? This must be Reggie Jackson gone berserk in the fourth quarter. Wait a minute. Kevin Durant played the entire fourth quarter, all 12 minutes. Russell Westbrook played 8.5 minutes in the fourth quarter. Now, again, me conditioned by Coach Popovich that at this point in the year, you just you mostly just rest people, and you certainly protect against an injury in a game like this, especially with the Russell Westbrook. And I'm thinking, what are you doing, Scott Brooks? Are they that threatened by losing home court advantage to the L.A. Clippers? Is that what that was about last night?
Could be.
Are they afraid they can't win a Game 7 at the Clippers when just back on April the 9th, they did win? Remember that game at the Clippers? They won impressively at the Clippers, who were without, I must say, Jamal Crawford, their Sixth Man of the Year candidate.
The Sixth Man of the Year to be.
Okay, there you go.
Let's be clear.
All right. So every time I look up, and then I'm watching the highlights on SportsCenter, Kevin Durant is taking Kyle Singler to the hoop and dunking on him because he's being covered in the fourth quarter by Kyle Singler for the most part. And I'm thinking, how impressive that he scored 21 points in the fourth because they're looking like a desperate team. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? And then it was very interesting, the soundbite we just heard from Kevin. He said, once again, it kind of got lost in the thoughts there, we did give up too many points again tonight. I'm going to remind you this. This final score last night was 112 to 111, and you say, here they come, we'll look out for those Thunder. Do you realize since the All-Star break, they have allowed the 20th most points in the NBA? The 20th most since the All-Star break, behind the Kings, the Magic, the Cavaliers. Really? Something is amiss on the other end of the floor. Now, again, a lot of those games have been without Russell Westbrook.
Well, you're in and out. You're having to make adjustments without Russell Westbrook's services. Other guys didn't step up. Serge Ibaka's had some games where he didn't step up. Kendrick Perkins had some games when he was riding the bench. You look at Reggie Jackson being implemented into the lineup, trying to figure out what Jeremy Lamb and others can bring to the table because you're gearing for the postseason. You know, I don't take the latter part of the season, the regular season, as seriously with the elite teams in the game as I do with some of the other teams because I understand you're trying to pace yourself and be in peak condition for the postseason.
Okay.
Sometimes you're experimenting with lineups. Sometimes, you don't have the consistency within the lineup due to injuries. And sometimes you simply, you don't mind. There's another agenda outside of actually winning basketball games, which I think the Miami Heat have proven with the way they've rested guys over the last couple of days or so in terms of LeBron and Chris Bosh.
Okay, fine. But you just put a lot of stock in the effort that this team gave the Thunder in the fourth quarter.
Right. I'm talking about the guys that were on the floor because for me, just to see Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook on the floor in the last regular season game, as much as they were, was relatively surprising. I mean, Kevin Durant played 45 minutes. Russell Westbrook played 34 minutes. I was shocked by that.
Me too.
And that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So I get that part, and I applaud the effort.
Okay. Meanwhile, back at the ranch in Memphis, the Dallas Mavericks and the Memphis Grizzlies were going throat to throat to win, to avoid playing the San Antonio Spurs. I'm taking that. I'm honored by that as a Spurs supporter. Yeah. And meanwhile, Memphis is going for the throat because apparently Memphis is not afraid to play the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, what happened in the playoffs last year? Obviously, Westbrook by this point was gone. Sure. Oklahoma City wins game 1, and then what happened in the next 4 games? I'm sorry, but Kevin Durant flamed out 4 straight times late in those games. I'm not going to rehash and regurgitate all the stats, but they were pathetic by his standards. You have made the case. He now has something to prove in this postseason, right? Well, voila. He gets to prove it against the very team that he didn't prove it against last year, right?
But there's also some things that you got to take into consideration. Both Dallas and Memphis were winless against the San Antonio Spurs this year. That's number one. Number two, if you're the Memphis Grizzlies, as much as I love Zach Randolph and as much of a big-time player he is, he's a lefty. He's not ambidextrous. And going up against the length of Tim Duncan and Tiago Splitter, I mean, the fact is it's a bit of inconvenient for a Zach Randolph. So Oklahoma City appears to be a slightly better matchup for them. But you also have to take into account the fact that, again, Russell Westbrook wasn't there last year when Kevin Durant was forced to go up against the tough Memphis squad by himself. He's expected to be there this time around. And so, again, we'll see what happens. But I don't think Oklahoma City is phased. I think Memphis obviously would be very, very confident against them because you don't have to worry about stuff on the interior with Oklahoma City the way you do. You have to worry about Ibaka and his shot blocking ability, but you don't have to worry about being dominated in the post offensively because there is no Tim Duncan on Oklahoma City's roster.
The only reason I can't make a huge case for Memphis versus Oklahoma City in first round is because there is no more Lionel Hollins in Memphis. And I don't know anything, to be honest, about Dave Yeager. I don't know.
He's done a decent job.
They came around late.
He's done a decent job. The Memphis Grizzlies have taken a hit as an organization because of some of the decisions that they obviously made. First and foremost amongst them was getting rid of Lionel Hollins. But the reality is the coach has done a quality job. Okay. The players still play hard. They're physical. You know, all of their, metric system, and all of this other, whatever, analytics and all the stuff. Listen, something is working well enough for them to have justified moving in a different direction. Do I think that Lionel Hollins should be a head coach in the NBA? Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. But at the same time, I can't knock the Memphis Grizzlies for the year that they've had. It's been a quality
Last quick thought. Our guy Tony Allen last night was sensational down the stretch. What a game-changing defensive and offensive player he can be. Rebounding.
He's got heart. And Tony Allen can play on my team any day of the week. Because he can defend.
Well, trust me, Kevin Durant's going to have to get used to some Tony Allen here.
Grizzlies at Thunder, Saturday, 9:30 Eastern.
I don't know.
On ESPN.
I think he bothers him.
Yeah,
Tony Allen will bother anybody.
I know, but I think he irritates Kevin. I do.
We got to move on. Two-time defending champion Miami Heat begin their quest for another chip on Sunday against the Bobcats. Miami, I don't know. Yeah, I don't mind. You guys want to finish?
Keep on going.
Tony Allen's great. Yeah. No? Okay. Who are we talking about now? Talking about Miami.
I hope so.
Okay. Miami, Charlotte. They won the regular season series, but let's take a look at the standing so far in the Eastern Conference. So I'm looking at the Heat, and this is who they possibly have to play. Skip, this question is for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, are you really convinced that the Heat can beat everyone and win the East?
Man, this is a tough question for me. My faith in the Heat is at about a 6 right now. I'm going to quote another guy we've had on the show a lot, the great Brian Windhorst, who's very plugged in, obviously, to LeBron James and the Miami Heat. I spoke to him the other day, and he made the point to me that right now, the Heat are about 25% worse than they were at this moment 1 year ago today.
Okay.
Think about that, 25% worse, and that may be being nice to him, actually. Sure. Now, again, Brian always puts the big asterisk, because we always have to, on what is Dwayne Wade's health. Not only does he have the knee issue, but as you know, he had an Achilles, which was pretty scary. Then he had a hamstring, both on the opposite leg from the knee. So clearly he was compensating, protecting the knee, and the other leg started to give out. So what will Dwayne's availability and productivity be in the postseason? I don't know. So it's an X factor that's hard to weigh in here. Now, let me frame this.
Sure.
First round opponent, Michael Jordan's team. What happened the last time these two teams played? It was March the 3rd at Miami. LeBron James went berserk. LeBron James made his first 8 3-point shots. He made 5 3-pointers in the third quarter, and he wound up with 61 points. And the Bobcats got barbecued in the media over the next couple of days for playing little to no defense, especially on one LeBron James, which I thought was a little unfair. Final score was Miami 124-107, which capped off Miami winning all 4 games against the Charlotte Bobcats. What happened from that moment until this moment? Since that game, the Miami Heat have gone 11-14. Since that night, 11-14. Meanwhile, the Bobcats have gone 16-6. 11-14 versus 16-6. How much should we read into that? I read quite a bit into that, because over that stretch, Al Jefferson, who should have been at least an honorable mention MVP candidate this year, went 24 points and 12 rebounds over that 16-6 stretch. What does Miami have problems with? A big banger. What is Al Jefferson? He's a big, gifted, skilled banger who can score from anywhere. Down on the blocks, he can drop, take the 15-foot jumper off the glass. This man has been lethal in the 16-6 run. So what am I thinking here? I'm thinking the Heat are going to have a little bit of a hard time here. I could see the Heat losing a couple of games to Charlotte in this series and taking Charlotte just taking a pound of flesh out of a LeBron James, who made a telling remark the other day when he said, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he said, I envy what Coach Pop is doing with the Spurs. Not one player on that team averaged even 30 minutes a game for the Spurs. No team has had that, with the top seed has had that since the merger, the NBA merger. So my point is, LeBron James, man, he just got driven in the ground by playing high minutes all the way down the stretch, and I think he's mentally gassed at this point. So it's going to be hard for them to get up for this.
No, I actually think that LeBron went through the mentally gassed period the last month of the season. I think he'll be just fine. I think he'll be ready. I don't think there's any way in hell that the Miami Heat lose this series. I'm picking Charlotte to win a game. I could see 2 games. I want to take a moment to give my man Michael Jordan props. And here's why. This guy has
Wait, I thought he was my man, but go ahead.
Well,
it's okay. That's okay. You can claim it.
Whatever, my brother, Michael Jordan.
I can't
Let
go
me
there.
say this.
You can.
Let me say this. Michael Jordan has taken so much heat
Yep.
as an executive in this league. Okay? What does he do this past offseason? He goes out, he gets a new head coach in Clifford.
Yep.
He signs Al Jefferson.
Well, that's
who has
the
been
magic
a man
move, right?
A man amongst boys.
Woo.
He had drafted Kemba Walker, who, by the way, can flat out ball. I mean, Kemba Walker can make things happen. He's a bit streaky at times or
He
whatever
is.
the case may be, but he's incredibly difficult to guard
He
when
is.
he gets going. He's a catalyst on this team. It's impressive. I love the way they play defense. I love their toughness. I understand that their interior toughness could cause Miami problems. But here is why they don't have, to me, they could win 2 games. But I'm going to predict they'll win 1.
Okay.
They'll win 1 in Charlotte. I don't see the Heat losing both games in Charlotte, and I certainly don't see them losing any games in Miami. What I see when I look at the Charlotte Bobcats, however, is that as much of a factor on the offensive end as Al Jefferson is, he is a liability defensively in this respect.
Okay.
He has problems defending dudes on the perimeter.
Yeah, I agree.
So Bosh and LeBron and those boys will take him away from the basket and hit jumpers on him. In the interior, that's his area. He's a man amongst boys. A lot of times he can handle his business. He can make a difference. But he's going to have problems. Whoever he's defending, Eric Spoelstra is going to make sure that individual can hit perimeter shots. And that's what he's going to do. Either he's going to pull Al Jefferson away from the basket, or Al Jefferson is going to stay down low, and you're going to get wide open perimeter shots, which is going to help Miami, and that's going to propel them to victory. That's what I see. Kid Gilchrist is a good kid, nice kid, good defensive player. Can't guard LeBron James. Let's stop that nonsense. He can't do anything with LeBron James. You got Kemba Walker. He can make some things happen. But Norris Cole, his elevation, his maturation, his toughness, that cat quickness that he has is something that you could use to rival what Kemba Walker gives you. And I'm just not sleeping on I'm not sleeping on Charlotte at all. They deserve respect. Michael Jordan, I think, has done a fabulous job. He deserves a lot of credit. But in the end, it stops here. You got to the playoffs. You won 43 games.
Good for you.
You should commend yourself for the season that you had. You'll win a game. By the way, I'm going to try to go to that Game 3 in Charlotte next Friday night. I'm going to try to go.
You said you were hanging out with us.
Next week. Next week. But I'm not hanging out with y'all for the players. Y'all know that.
Okay.
The point that I'm trying to make to you is I'm trying to go down to Charlotte for that game because it's going to be bananas down there. That crowd is. They finally got something to cheer about again, and I think that's the game Charlotte wins. But that's the only game.
Okay, remember, Al Jefferson does have some playoff experience in Utah.
Yes, he does.
And once in Boston, so he's played 11 total games. So I don't think he'll be just happy to be this far. I think he'll show up for these games.
Well, he's going to score.
And listen, they're going to have to play Birdman more than you think because they're going to have to double him every time. I don't think Bosh can handle him on the other end, so it's like give and take, give and take.
Well, what you do is you let Bosh play off the ball, and you put the Udonis Haslams and the Birdman, Chris Andersons of the world on him directly. But more importantly than that, you have to be, I don't care who you are, I don't care how much you score. If you can't stop Miami, you're not winning. Because Miami has proven over the last 3 years they can outscore anybody. The way to beat them is to make the games ugly, lower the score, and prohibit their ability to score because it demoralizes them, at least in moments, on the defensive side of the ball when they're struggling so much offensively. You have to be able to stop them. Otherwise, they know they can turn it up anytime they want to and score on you, and it's a wrap. It's over when they can do that. And Charlotte cannot stop them, in my estimation. They just can't do it.
Okay, so I still say the Miami Heat will go as far in the postseason as Dwayne Wade in his health takes Miami. Because they're looking at the Nets in the second round, and you're You're big on the Nets, right?
Yes, I am.
So this is not the easiest
Even though
path.
the last 2 games in the regular season, they haven't looked that great.
That doesn't bother me.
All right, so when are you going to be in Charlotte? Let me just make sure.
Game 3. I'm trying to go to Charlotte that Friday night. That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, it's Saturday.
I got options.
All right, it's Saturday. So
Saturday?
Yeah, it's Saturday.
So you'll be the Friday.
No, that's okay, but you
Good,
can
then
make
we
it.
got a shot.
Yeah, then you can maybe. hang
Friday
with
night.
us. Okay.
I think a week from tomorrow we have a special guest on the show. No, don't
let's
say
not
who
talk
it is.
about it
No,
yet.
but I think that's
Let's
why
not
you need to
jinx
be
it.
in-house
I
that
will
day.
be in-house because of that guest.
Yes, thank you.
That's why I will be here. You didn't have to text me, by the way, to tell me the plan of being.
Well, I was asking you nicely to do me one last little favor.
Me here.
There are never a last favor
Yeah,
that you
it's
skip.
always favors.
There's
Never
been a week.
stop.
There's another one coming next
If I
week.
ever ask you for a ticket in my life, no.
That's true.
No,
Thank you.
because you don't like to go outside.
I don't go.
With the people.
He's about the only one that hasn't asked me.
I know.
According to our Adam Schefter, former Titans running back Chris Johnson signed a 2-year deal with the Jets worth up to $9 million. Publicly, little interest for Johnson. Johnson, well aware of that fact, and says now he wants to prove all his doubters wrong. Now with that signing, our Ron Jaworski had this to say.
This is a really good landing spot for Chris Johnson. You know, he's going to get his touches with the New York Jets. And I'm going to read the tea leaves a little bit here and say Michael Vick is going to win the starting quarterback job over Geno Smith for the New York Jets. What that's going to do is bring 2 dynamic runners into the backfield at the same time. One at quarterback in Michael Vick and obviously Chris Johnson. What that's going to do is allow Chris Johnson to have those cutback lanes that are so critical to his success. I think this does help the Jets offensively. The addition of Decker at wide receiver, they're getting better. Now address the O-line.
All right. So do you agree? You think that Vick will beat out Geno Smith for that quarterback position?
I think eventually it's possible. I definitely think that Vic could do it. I think politics could potentially play a role. If you're trying to find out whether or not Geno Smith is the guy for your future, I don't think he gets beaten out by Michael Vick initially. I think you want to put him in the line of fire again, coming off the season that he had his rookie campaign, and see what he's capable of doing initially. And then as the season progresses, you see how he performs. And, you know, is it possible that Michael Vick will be inserted? I'd say it's likely. Now, when I spoke to Michael Vick in the aftermath of his signing with the Jets, personally, what he said to me was, you know what, he's trying to be a team player.
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to compete. He has spoken to Geno, but he let Geno know that he's here for him for whatever he needs. He's going to try to be helpful. He's not trying to be a distraction or anything like that. They're going to compete and push one another. But if Geno Smith is the starting quarterback, he will support him without a peep. And I believe Michael Vick, because he's got that kind of integrity, especially now at this point in his life.
Yep.
But with that being said, I'm just of the mindset that Michael Vick is better than Geno right now. And the New York Jets need to win this year because they've missed the postseason the last 3 years. The Jets had problems offensively last year, ranking 29th. But it wasn't with their running game, which was 6th in the league. Chris Ivory rushed for about 833 yards, averaged nearly 5 yards a carry. He wasn't a problem. Bilal Powell wasn't necessarily a problem. But at the same time, they weren't necessarily deemed as being dynamic. Chris Johnson is potentially dynamic, and the combination of him with a quarterback that can get things done can really propel this New York Jets offense. But I will say this, having Chris Johnson is a plus for Michael Vick, more so than it is a plus for Geno. It helps both of them. But when you have an accomplished rusher like Chris Johnson, who basically in the eyes of NFL folks got a max 2 years left because he's already at almost 770 carries. The magic number is 2,000. Got 2,000 plus carries. They think you're on the downside as a running back. So this is considered like the last year of productivity, even though the Jets gave him a 2-year deal. But because of what he's capable of doing, I think a more experienced quarterback would take advantage of his exploits while Geno's still learning on the job. So I think that Vic could beat him out. I think that Vic will ultimately get inserted into that lineup, but I don't think it's going to be initially to start off the season. I think the Jets have to give Geno a chance to see what he can do and how much he's progressed in the offseason.
Okay, I got 2 strong thoughts on this. I've told you before, if I'm running the Jets, I am starting Michael Vick from day one in training camp. Because I told you before the draft I wasn't sold on Geno, and after watching him last year, I'm still no more sold on Geno. That's just me. Now, real quick before we dive back into that, Chris Johnson. This was a splash signing by the New York Jets, and I believe they were basically bidding against themselves and way overpaid for Chris Johnson. By all accounts, by all reports, and I'm just going by what I read and heard, no one else was that interested in Chris Johnson. Nobody would trade for him, or at least give Tennessee what anywhere near what it thought it was worth to trade Chris Johnson. And I told you before when we were talking about what was his market. Remember, Noshawn got a 1-year, $3 million deal to go to the Dolphins. Yeah. That's Noshawn Marino. And, my God, Maurice Jones-Drew got 3 years, $7.5 million total. If you start breaking that down, it's like nothing. It's nothing. Yeah. It's less than what Noshawn got for the 1 year and $3 million. So I'm saying, remember we were talking about this, and I said, well, to me, Chris Johnson's going to be worth $2 to $3 million, maybe 2.5, and he was due to make 8 in Tennessee. So they basically, if I'm reading these tea leaves right, they gave him 8 total for 2 years, which is 4 and 4 with incentives that could get him another $1 million over a 2-year period. So it's like 4.5, 4.5. Right. Okay. To me, you paid way over market value, and I'm not sure anybody else would have bid that kind of money for Chris Johnson. But the Jets, you made a great point yesterday, they needed the splash of Chris Johnson's name. That they need CK2K. You know, they need that guy. They need that video game player, or at least the guy who used to be the video game player.
The guy's got to a 2,000-yard rushing season on his resume. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards every single year of his 6-year career in the NFL. And we are talking about a New York Jets team. When you stink, when you stink, Skip, or when you come close to stinking, you have to overpay. Everybody isn't clamoring to come pay for you, and that's part of the process here. If it were the New England Patriots, of course you're overpaying. If it were the Denver Broncos, of course you're overpaying. If it were the New Orleans Saints, of course you're overpaying. But if it's the New York Jets, who walk into every season with at the height of their expectations, second-tier status, because you're always going to play second fiddle at the very least to the New England Patriots in the AFC East, the reality is that you've got to make a splash. You've got to draw attention to the fact that you're trying to get something going in New York. So based on that alone, along with his attributes, I don't knock the signing. I think that Chris has to be careful in thinking that people think he's finished. He's got a bigger problem. I don't think people look at him and look at his physical attributes and feel that he's done. You watch this kid fly. Once he gets in the open field, most folks ain't catching him. But the point is that his head, his commitment, since he got his money, was open for question.
Scary.
That's a bigger issue that he has
over these last 3 years.
That's right.
Declined. Okay, and then remember, he did have knee surgery. Yeah. He's coming off meniscus surgery. So I don't know. There's an X factor there. But now we're back to the Michael Vick factor. If you're talking splash, then you're talking Rex, who's, can we say he's on a short leash? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And Marty Mornhinweg, obviously attached at the hip to Rex. They need to make their splash right now. I promise you that in their heart of hearts, they would tell you we would have a better shot with Michael Vick using Chris Johnson in creative ways like LaShawn Michael Vick ways that they used him in Philadelphia. Right. And Chris can catch the football. He had 42 catches last year and 51 targets, so he's got good hands, and I think he's more dangerous in the open field breaking away with a little swing pass, some little flare pass. So I like the Vick pairing. That's what Ron Joe said. That's what we started with, because it's voltage, it's box office, it's what they need to jumpstart them and regain some back page notoriety in New York City. But it's not just about that. It's about having guys who have enough of a reputation that if you're a defense, whether it be a defensive coordinator or a head coach, you have to plan on how to defend against them. You need people like that in your lineup. And that's what, to me, Chris Johnson brings compared to what the New York Jets have. You listen, Chris Ivory was going to get his touches, but
Bilal Powell is going to get his touches. Okay? But when Thomas Jones was there years ago, you had to deal with them. When Curtis Martin was there years ago, you had to deal with them.
Definitely.
And because of it, it served as some kind of a distraction in terms of how defenses plotted and planned against you. The New York Jets were going to make sure you gave Chris Ivory the ball enough, Bilal Powell the ball enough, because, you know, we're just trying to be conservative. We don't have but so much of a belief in our offense, but at the same time, they've got to be out on the field as well. No. Now you're getting pieces in place where you're sending the message that we've got some players that you're going to have to contend with. And I think that kind of stuff helps a Geno Smith, helps a Michael Vick, because you don't sit there and get to just stack the line of scrimmage without anything to worry about. Or if you do stack it, play action and make your things happen that way.
Okay, so here's the bottom line. The GM has invested in Geno Smith. The GM wants to prove that he made the right pick in Geno Smith.
Which is why he's going to start.
Which is why he is going to start. But if it's Rex's call, Morningweg's call, to me, they need to make the early splash with Vic/CJ in the backfield, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
But I think the GM, if I'm reading these tea leaves right. Wouldn't he have the final say over this?
Well, Rex does have some say in terms of coaching that takes place on the field, but primarily with the defense, you may have a point, because offensively, it's left up to Morningweg more so. The issue is that Morningweg is tied to Rex, not
to Idzik. But yet, Ron Jaworski knows a lot of folks, and if he's reading tea leaves, he may be hearing that maybe they're going to try.
Well, we're going to have him on the show a little later. Maybe we can
find
edge in and find out about that. On the signing, Chris Johnson said both the Jets and himself have something to prove, so it's a happy marriage.
He's a good guy off the court, but it's probably just, he plays pretty physical. He flops a little bit, flails his arms around, so, you might catch a random elbow or something. And that doesn't, rub off too well on guys, He's kind of like a bull in a china shop, kind of out of control sometimes. And then you just do see him flop sometimes. Like, how can a guy that big and strong flop that much? So, yeah, I can see how he could get under people's skin and be frustrating to play against.
All right, that's Warriors' Klay Thompson on Blake Griffin. Clippers versus Warriors. Western Conference first round begins on Saturday. Teams have split the regular season series, and West Coast rivalry has already begun to take shape, as you can see, with the Warriors targeting Griffin specifically. Stephen A. Smith, are you surprised that Klay had this to say about Blake?
Not at all. The two teams don't like each other particularly too much. We know that Blake Griffin called out the team after getting ejected. I think it was around Christmas Day. He was pretty ticked off. And believe it or not, he was ticked off because he was accusing them of what Klay Thompson accused him of flopping, acting, and doing all of this stuff. Actually, if I recall correctly, Blake Griffin accused them of playing cowardly basketball. But in the end, this might be the most exciting matchup of the first round. These two teams are high-octane offenses. You're going to see Klay Thompson spending some time on Chris Paul, but Chris Paul has been incredibly successful driving to the basket against them. That's going to be, and Chris Paul's a superstar. We're going to see what he does. Plus, he can get up, and Klay Thompson can't block the shot. Klay Thompson will get his jump shot off, but at the same time, can get up in you, can disrupt you a little bit. We'll see what happens. I see nobody having an answer for Steph Curry, because he is a superstar as far as I'm concerned. But my man Jamal Crawford will have something to say about some things, because he can light it up himself. It's going to be very interesting. But I love the fact that it's heated, because I think you're going to see some technicals. It better not be by Blake Griffin, because he'll end up getting suspended again. But I think you'll see others. It'll be feisty. But in the end, it wouldn't surprise me at all if this became a 7-game series won by the Clippers on their home floor in a Game 7, because each team wins on their home court against one another. They've been very successful in that regard. That's what I see in this series. But again, it's going to be tense. It's going to be hostile, because they don't like each other. They get on each other's nerves just a little bit. It's not rivalries of days going by or whatever, but it's feisty. From a modern day standard, it's feisty enough to be entertaining for me.
High drama.
Yeah.
Can't wait. When I listened, I just read what Klay Thompson had to say last night, and then this is the first time I got to actually hear him say it. That wasn't pre-fight hype. That wasn't trash talk. He was just being honest.
Yeah.
Didn't it come across as just matter of fact?
Yeah,
this is just what the guy is.
Yeah.
He flops a little bit. He's bull in a china shop. He's throwing elbows, arms around. He's going to catch you in the nose. And once again, we talked about Blake. We pretty much put him on the couch yesterday. I'm now ready to conclude he is the weirdest player and the weirdest dude I have ever tried to analyze, on and off the court. Just a weird character to me. Again, grew up in my hometown of Oklahoma City. Has he not become the #1 pitchman in sports on television? I mean, can you turn on your TV without seeing another Blake Griffin ad?
I do like the State Farm commercials by Chris Paul.
Okay, those are good. That's true. They rival. But again, Blake's doing Gamefly and Kias, and they're all kind of oddball commercials, a little off center. Am I right? And here's a guy who doesn't have much to say in interviews. He's droll. He's sort of
I was going to say, it's definitely an interview. He definitely has a lot to say off the air.
Well, okay.
I can tell you that.
About you.
I can tell you that. He's got something to say off the air, but not on the air.
But they took his stone-faced demeanor and they made it the whole point of the commercial is that he's stone-faced and right, straight-faced about everything he says. So, again, when he's playing basketball, he does play out of control. He just attacks the basket, and I think the guy who's accused of being soft can be hard to deal with because he will run over people, he will accidentally hurt people, and yet he will also flop. And so how do you put all this together? I don't know. But I didn't think that was trash talk as much as this is the guy we have to deal with. Yeah, this is the guy we have to mess with.
So why don't we just give credit where credit is due and give him some credit for his intellect? The fact of the matter is Blake Griffin.
Oh, Blake or Clay?
Well, Clay's obviously a very smart guy. You know who his father is, works for ESPN on radio. He knows his basketball, too. But the thing about it is that when you look at Blake Griffin, it's similar to LeBron James in this respect. Skip, they can hurt most people anytime they want to. They really can. The problem is that where's that going to get you? It'll get you technical. It'll get you ejected.
Okay, but wait a second. LeBron never plays out of control, though. He's completely calculated in every move.
But what I'm saying to you is that as spectacular as Blake Griffin is, he's no LeBron James.
No.
LeBron James has a repertoire that may be unrivaled in NBA history in terms of what he can do with the basketball for his size. Blake Griffin at 6'10" is just a skywalker. It's just that simple. I mean, when you can go to the basket with reckless abandon because you could leap tall buildings in a single bound, and there's nobody that can touch you. Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Blake. So you don't have to worry but so much about those things. As a result of it, you go out there and you attack the basket with fervor. Usually teams, they're going like this. They're trying to bring you down to earth. We know that Zach Randolph can't jump with Blake Griffin, so what do? I get physical with you. I get inside your head. And not only that, I get disgusted with you because you'll go the finesse route. You 6'10", you 260, you a man, come down here in man territory.
No, he doesn't play that way. I know.
He doesn't play that way. So he doesn't play into their hands,
and he will
they frustrate him.
He will not fight back.
They frustrate him, and they call him soft because of it.
And then he will flop on defense.
Well, again, because it works for him.
Okay.
Now, where's the rule where they were punishing you for flopping? How come nobody picked up on it? If they didn't catch him, I can't knock him for that. If it's working for him, it's working for him. Listen, Vlade Divac, was there anybody better than that?
I love
than him. I mean, he used to drive Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal, that's one of the all-time players he absolutely hated playing against. Because the minute Shaq dropped step, Vlade would fly into the stands. And Shaq just looking at the red. Y'all got to be kidding me.
Okay, but on offense, Vlade couldn't take the ball and attack the basket the way Blake can. That's why it's like this doesn't go together.
That's why it's like,
It actually does go together. It actually does go together because if you know that you can't retaliate the way that you would be inclined to do so because of your physicality, because you know that you'll lose out in the end because of foul trouble, techs, ejections, etc., then you only have that resort. And that's what he's using to his advantage. And the Clippers are winning, and he's number 2 on my list for League MVP award.
Okay, so here's why I give the Warriors a puncher's chance, if I may use the analogy, in this matchup. You've talked about how Mark Jackson is on the hot seat.
Which is ridiculous.
Okay, but it's the truth.
Yes.
We're going to accept that that's a fact.
It is a fact.
Okay, so you're saying, gee, short of winning this series, he's out, right? So those players love Mark Jackson. By all accounts, everything.
I will say this. I'm glad you brought that up. It's not a subject we need to touch on today. We weren't going to. One thing is that you know how much I love me some Steph Curry. I mean, that boy's a superstar. I just love
so
him.
you think Steph isn't quite on board?
It's not just Steph. I have, outside of Jermaine O'Neal, I haven't heard anyone defiantly stand up. Now, I could be wrong. I've looked for the articles. I've looked for clips. I haven't found it. I could be wrong. I could be missing something. But I haven't heard anyone stand up defiantly and say, this is my coach. I want this guy to be my coach. I've heard Steph Curry say, I don't need to step up for him. I'm out there playing and balling. That shows how much I want him to stay here. But I haven't heard anybody stand up and defiantly support him.
Now they can do it with their actions, right? Yes. Okay, we'll find out.
We'll find out.
All right, gentlemen. So, again, Warriors at Clippers Saturday, 3:30, ABC.
Man, I might have to go out there.
You don't have to go to L.A.?
I might have to for that game. I might have to be there. I don't know yet.
Okay.
I don't know. But I will be here for you. I'll be here still.
On Monday.
I'll be here Monday.
Okay.
I think there might be reasons beyond basketball to
What do you
LA.
mean?
I'm just thinking.
Oh, no, man. I'm good, man. You keep thinking dastardly thoughts.
That's not dastardly.
My dastardly thoughts are right here on the East Coast. Life is lovely. I'm cool.
Okay.
I'm cool.
Wow. Super Bowl 48 is in the books. Peyton Manning and the Broncos were blown off the field 43-8 by the Seahawks, but how they take that loss and rebound is really what we want to figure out. You see they've acquired Aqib Talib and DeMarcus Ware. Denver seems to be headed in the right direction. Peyton Manning weighs in.
You have to move forward. You have to kind of reestablish your identity of the 2014 team. 2013 was a good season in a lot of ways. There's no question it did not end the way we wanted it to, but we have to find a way to build off that, try to take it a step further, try to finish. And but there's no question you have to kind of start over again and reestablish the chemistry on this team with all these new players. I think that's important, and like I said, that really starts on Monday.
That does start on Monday. Broncos begin their off-season program on Monday. Here's the question. Will they be as good as they were last season? Skip Bayless.
The answer is no. I do think Peyton Manning will be just as great as he was each of the last 2 seasons. I do not think, after all his team lost, despite what you point out that they gained, that it can be as good. I don't think it will be as good as New England, which I think is now the class and should be the preseason favorite in the AFC. The one thing Denver still has going for it, it gets to play in the AFC West. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not seeing those other 3 teams make significant moves where I say, wow, here they come, or they come, or they come. I can still
under the radar the whole offseason.
The whole offseason.
Except the Raiders.
I guess so. They had record cap room, and I'm not sure what they did with it. Yeah, even
Justin
today. Yeah, okay.
Paul Woodley. Yeah,
whatever. So, do I think they could still sweep their division? I do, which would still put them in good stead. They still have to go to New England once again next year. That will be a showcase game. But when I look at the losses, not that I'm the biggest fan of Eric Decker, but they lost Decker, they lost Noshan, they lost Champ, they lost DRC. They lost Zane Beatles, who's an outstanding offensive lineman. They lost Robert Ayers, and they lost Wesley Woodyard, and they lost Sean Phillips on defense. Those are key pieces on defense. Stalwarts. They lost Trenton Holiday in their return game. They lost Chris Cooper to retirement. It's just the depth of those losses is significant. Now, as you point out, Aqib Talib, nice pickup. TJ Ward, pretty nice pickup. DeMarcus Ware, I'm not so sure. I'm not sure what he has left because I know he disappointed me the last 3 years as a Dallas Cowboy. And Emmanuel Sanders, we've had him on the show. I like him a lot. Can he step right in for Decker? Will their offense be just as good? I think so, as long as they can keep protecting Peyton the way they've been. And I don't know about that. I'm not sure about that. But the receiving core should be still the strength of the football team. So, Monte Bell, what do you, I don't know.
This is the bottom line.
Monte Ball, I'm sorry.
I think Monte Ball could replace Noshan Moreno.
Yep.
I think the receiving corps can still be up to par, and I definitely think that Peyton Manning can still be Peyton Manning.
Yep.
As a result, I expect their offense to be every bit as formidable as they were. But that doesn't mean you're wrong, because you're absolutely right. Because the only way for them to be on par with what they were last year or to exceed it is to either get back to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, both of which I don't believe is happening because I believe that's going to go to New England or somebody else. Now, I will openly admit that I'm not a prisoner of the moment, but I am a prisoner of Super Bowl moments, particularly when it's the same dudes coming back for the most part. I understand they've had some losses, but I don't know if I'm ever going to get over the way the Denver Broncos were punked this past Super Bowl. They got stomped, beat down. And I've seen people get beat down before, but I've seen it happen, Skip, because everything went wrong. I saw the Buffalo Bills get stomped, but it also happened to coincide with Jim Kelly going down, getting injured, and a backup quarterback having to come in and play in the Super Bowl. Now, Dallas was a superior team back then, and we understand that. But then everything just went wrong. I don't view the Super Bowl, the past Super Bowl that we just watched, as everything just going wrong for Denver. I look at a bunch of men from Seattle showing up, getting in your face, literally telling you you ain't worth the damn. What are you going to do about it? And the Denver Broncos doing nothing. That is entirely different than things just falling apart. And I don't blame Peyton Manning for that because as a quarterback, you drop back the pass, you got to have people to throw it to. I looked at everybody outside of Demaryius Thomas being absolutely scared, almost like Fright Night for crying out loud. They couldn't do anything. What is Peyton Manning supposed to do if there's nobody to throw the ball to? I can't hold him accountable for that. But in the end, I truly believe that's what happened. There are losses. There are annihilations, and then this just straight up getting punked. And the Denver Broncos got punked. I mean, it's the kind of performance as a football player. To me, it was the equivalent of a boxer getting in the ring and running all night long. That's the kind of beatdown. I mean, listen, they look scared. And I haven't gotten over that. And I don't think that you can recover from that, even though you've made the changes that you've made. Not when you're going up against New England, because I stand by this statement. I've gone off about the Patriots. I mean, even though they're America's team and all this stuff, I play around with Tom Brady, even though I know he's one of the greatest ever. But I got to say this with all seriousness in the world. New England might have lost that Super Bowl too. They ain't going out like that. They ain't going out like that. Without Vincent Wilfork, without Gerard Mayo, without these, I don't care. They're not, New England's not going out like that. Bill Belichick is not going out like that. Not like that. And I can't get over it.
So he's making the case that maybe the Broncos will never recover from what happened?
I think that the Broncos, it's the equivalent of the Pacquiao knockout. Several fights to recover, several Super Bowls to recover. I just think that I look in all seriousness, Skip. Again, Peyton Manning is going to be Peyton Manning. But let's say for the sake of argument that Denver got back to the Super Bowl. And let's say this time Seattle didn't make it. San Francisco made it. Do you really expect a different result? The way that defense plays, smash mouth approach to it, you expect them to get punked too. Now, if you're going up against New Orleans and it's a shootout, oh, that's different. That's different. You're going up against that bad man that is Aaron Rodgers, it's a shootout. Well, that's different. But if you're going to go up against some rough riders, I believe same result happens to the Denver Broncos.
Timeout. Just timeout.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to let that lay. What you said about Pacquiao.
Pacquiao.
Okay, so the other night against Timothy Bradley, Manny Pacquiao in the first round of the fight took a haymaker and caught it flush in the cheek.
Really?
And it rocked him. And he said after the fight, it stung me. And guess what? He just said, he spat on him. He just said, do it. Throw another one. Throw another one.
First of all, Skip, he stumbled just a little bit there. That's number one. Number two, mad respect for Timothy Bradley. I don't want to say anything that comes across. Let me finish. I don't want to say anything that comes across as disrespectful to him because I like Timothy Bradley as a fighter. I really think he's tough. He's got a lot of heart. I mean, he gives it to you the whole bit, but he's devoid of power. 31 wins. Undefeated until last weekend, 12 knockouts. Come on, man.
Did you see the haymakers he was throwing in the first two rounds? Is he not going for the kill?
I saw him hit people with those haymakers. And you know the thing that's consistent about Tim Bradley when he hits you with those haymakers? Somehow, some way, you still keep coming. You still keep coming. You know what I mean? Nobody falls, Skip. I mean, so I'm just saying to you that let's not go there.
Now, if he hit Floyd with one of them, Floyd still would be out this moment.
First of all, we don't even have to ask that question because he wouldn't hit Floyd.
He wouldn't hit Floyd before.
All right, so we both agree, or you all agree.
When's the last time Floyd got hit in the face?
I don't think it ever.
He got rocked a couple times.
At the Sugar Shane Mosey fight was the last time Floyd got hit in the face.
How long ago was that?
A couple, 2-3 years ago. He ain't been hit in the face.
Wait a minute. Floyd's 44 years old, so it was like 8 years ago.
He should really go back. He should get rid of the Money Mayweather stuff, and because his defense is so sublime and his father doing the great job that he's doing, he should go back to calling himself Pretty Boy Floyd. Because nobody touches him. Nobody touches him.
He's 44, so says Skip.
Yeah, you know where he plays his best defense? Out of the ring, running from Manny. That's where he plays his best defense. He's untouchable.
So you guys don't think the Broncos will be the same. Let's talk about the other Manning brother, shall we? That's Eli. According to ESPN and media reports, he has actually got a backup quarterback by the name of Josh Freeman.
Yeah.
Yeah, you heard about that. And I don't know if you remember this. You remember the last time that Josh Freeman had a start? It was actually against the Giants.
Monday Night Football.
And he looked sick.
He was hideous.
He was sick about it, but now he's the backup for your Giants. What does it say about Eli, my friend?
Well, what all it says is that they're not sure if Eli's going to be healthy. We have not seen another individual throw as a quarterback for the New York Giants since 2004. Yeah. This man has started and played every game. What's the number here? 151 consecutive starts. The longest active streak in the NFL. Okay, now that Brett Favre has retired. All I'm trying to say to you is Eli Manning, coming off a hideous season himself, 27 interceptions, third time in his career he's led the leagues in the league in interceptions thrown. I get all of that, but in the end, am I supposed to be worried about Josh Freeman?
Are you?
Excuse me.
And bless Josh.
Not remotely. Josh Freeman is lucky to have a job at the NFL. Now, granted, I understand that in 2010. What did he do, Skip?
No.
I mean,
please tell us.
3,451 yards.
Wait, 25 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions?
That's right.
And the team went 10-6? Wait, was that in the NFL?
No.
Yes, it was.
Oh, it was. And has been irrelevant since. Don't get me wrong. I'm not accusing him of being Tebow. I know Josh Freeman can throw. I know he could be a quarterback in this league. I'm simply saying to you that over the last several years, that hasn't been the case. And I think because of the system he was in, the kind of nonsense he had to deal with, and I get all of that. All I'm saying is that it has hurt him, and he has regressed significantly because of it. And as a result of that, Eli Manning, I mean, please pump the brakes. He has nothing to be concerned about. The only thing Eli has to work on is getting himself healed. That is it. He has absolutely positively nothing to worry about. Get his left ankle healed, he'll be just fine. Because on 1.5 legs, he'd be better than Josh Freeman.
On 1.5?
I think Josh Freeman has a lot of game left in him.
I don't know.
I do.
Okay.
And he's been caught up in some awful situations. I know he's had his share of emotional problems that went along with it. But you called it nonsense. There was a lot of nonsense going on in Tampa. Then he got thrown into the fire in Minneapolis. Okay. I don't know, except that I'm going to go to the bank with 25 touchdowns to 6 interceptions for an NFL team. I love this kid coming out of Kansas State. I watched a lot of his games, his big games against Texas and Oklahoma. Pull the tapes. Yeah. Tell me what you saw. Yeah. The bigger the game, the bigger he always played. I think he's got a lot left because he hasn't had to spend a lot of himself over the last couple of years.
Right.
So am I making a case that he's better than Eli? Obviously, I'm not. Yeah. But we just talked about how weird Blake Griffin is and how hard he is to analyze. Eli's career is equally weird to me because he had, I'm going to say it again, he had 2 lucky Super Bowl runs. I won't call the runs lucky, but he had 2 lucky Super Bowl wins after great runs, wild card kind of runs. And yet, I look at 2 great years with 2 Super Bowl rings, and then the other 3 times he made the playoffs, they were first round exit, or first game exit, I should say. Okay? So then I look at what he's averaged as a starter. His average record as a starter for the New York Football Giants is 9-7. And they have missed the playoffs 4 of the last 5 years. And Eli Manning has led the NFL in interceptions 3 times, not once or twice, 3 times, including this past season. And now he is 33 years of age. So clearly somebody upstairs has to be thinking, hey, he finally got hurt. He finally has an issue that required surgery. We need to have some quality at backup instead
I've never understood that, though. I've never, knowing the NFL being what it is and how one play can take you out, I have never understood how any team can literally not have a quality backup. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I really don't. It makes no sense to me.
Well, it just shows you how he has spoiled his front office, because they said
he plays. He's
yeah,
there.
It's not that he's an Iron Man like Favre is an Iron Man, like a tough guy. I mean, I don't consider I'm sure you have to be a tough guy to play in the NFL.
He is tough.
But he's got that thing where he avoids any of the harm shots, the injury shots.
And he got that aw shucks look on his face.
Oh yeah.
Eli Manning is a big boy.
No, he's
not
6'5".
not a small dude.
Yep.
He's a big guy. I mean, he's not soft by any stretch of the imagination. Not at all.
What makes the Indy 500 the greatest spectacle in racing?
Back home again.
We are free. Everyone in the grandstands are on their feet.
You're now the winner of the Indianapolis 500, my friend.
The Indianapolis 500, Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on ABC.
After Dwight Howard signed with the Rockets, the expectations were set. Go deep into the playoffs, if not win the Western Conference. First round of his postseason against the Trailblazers starts on Sunday. Howard tells USA Today Sports, quote, "All I want to do is win. That's the only thing that matters to me. If we win, then everything falls into place. I can't control how people feel. I can't control any of that stuff, so that's not my focus. People are going to say whatever they're going to say about me. Say I'm not playing as great or they don't talk about me as much, but that's fine. All you have to do is win. When you win games, nobody can say anything. So that's the only thing I'm going to do." All right, so how far do you think the Rockets will make it in the playoffs, Stephen A?
I think it's entirely possible that they can end up losing in the first round.
Really?
I think Portland's a legitimate threat. I wouldn't pick them to lose this series. It just wouldn't surprise me if Portland beat them. I'm going to wait until Friday to make my prediction, but I lean towards Houston at this particular moment in time because I expect Dwight Howard to be dominant. He will need to be dominant in order for Houston to win this series. Can't leave it up to James Harden and those boys to go up against Portland. Portland can shoot perimeter shots. They've got length. They can defend. They can push the ball up the floor, and they've got enough big bodies to make things a bit troublesome for you. And LaMarcus Aldridge can flat out ball.
Yeah.
And so the combination of him with Robin Lopez and those boys give you the size on your front line that you need. Their home crowd is rabid. There is no doubt about that. I just look at them and I say to myself, I can't underestimate Portland by any stretch of the imagination. And what I love about this series is that you leave L.A. if you're Dwight Howard. You talk about wanting to win, and winning is going to be up to you. I know what James Harden's going to do. I have no doubt. James Harden's going to get his. James Harden's going to be formidable. I'm even looking at guys like Chandler Parsons and and Terrence Jones and Jeremy Lin and those guys. And I expect them to do what they do. The difference is about Dwight Howard. He has got to play big in this series. He has got to be an eraser. It's not. He doesn't have to be extraordinary offensively. Get your 18 to 22 points. Where you really need to dominate is on the boards and defensively. You got to sit there. You can't have guys thinking that they can come to the paint at will. You have to be a neutralizer, a negator. You've got to step up and be big. You got to remember, without his shoes, White House is like 6'9.5".
Wow.
And so LaMarcus Aldridge has some size on him. So does Robin Lopez. So Omar Sheik's going to have to implement himself into the equation, get over his frustration from Dwight Howard being acquired by the Rockets, and he's going to have to help Dwight Howard play big because Dwight Howard's not going to be able to do it by himself. But in the end, the $88 million man for the Rockets, Dwight Howard, this is his moment. And he has to be the guy that delivers the goods for you in order for Houston to beat Portland in this series.
I look at the Houston Rockets, and I see a loaded basketball team. I see lots of talent in the lineup and on the bench. And yet, in the end, with the Houston Rockets, I think it's all about James Harden closing. They mostly say, James, here, you take it in the fourth quarter and get us home. Because the $88 million man has not played $88 million basketball this year. Maybe that makes you happy, now that he's no longer a Laker. I just don't think he has lived up. I admire Dwight for improving his free throw shooting. He's up to 55% by his standards. Remember, what's DeAndre Jordan? He's 43% this year, up from 39% a year ago. So Dwight's not quite the liability that DeAndre continues to be for the Clippers in the fourth quarter. But still, I look at offensive efficiency for this team. They're fourth in the NBA. Defensive efficiency for the Houston Rockets, they're only 12th. And they have the human eraser down in the paint. Dwight's blocks are down. They're the lowest that he's had since his third year in the league. Why is that? I don't know. Is he still not quite healthy? Is he not right? Is he not that into it? He seems so happy. They love him. He loves them. It's a great fit. He was signed to be the difference maker, the final huge piece to the championship puzzle in Houston. They stole James Harden from Oklahoma City, and then they actually stole Dwight Howard from the Lakers because everybody thought it would be a match made in Laker heaven, right? Yeah. And it wasn't. And he wanted out because he couldn't take the pressure of trying to live up to Kobe's expectations in Laker Nation. So now, lower expectations in smaller town Houston, and I'm still not seeing that guy, that defensive player of the year, that guy who controls the paint. So, again, we're going to save our predictions till tomorrow, but I'm leaning toward picking Houston to win this series. I am not leaning toward Houston to beat my San Antonio Spurs in the second round.
I don't see the Houston Rockets getting to the Western Conference Finals. I don't see that. I predicted at the beginning of the season that I anticipate that what they will do is they'll get to the second round. But I didn't anticipate Portland being this good this year, being able to win 54 games. And when I look at them, I understand you talking about how Houston has some weapons. I get that. I'm looking at the White House. Let's look at these numbers here. 18 and 12. That's not bad. Shooting 59% from the field. That's very, very good. So I'm looking at him. I'm looking at the 1.8 blocks. I expect there to be a bit more.
Me too.
And I'm concerned about that. But outside of that, his numbers are on par to some degree of where we're accustomed to seeing him. He's made some adjustments, but you shoot 59% from the field. You're doing 18 and 12. I got to give you props because you're handling your business. But in the end, look at the James Harden. Look at the Parsons. Look at the Jones. Look at these guys. Skip. It's going to come down. They got some weapons. I get all of that. They got some guys that can put the ball in the hole. But you've got to stop somebody.
Yeah.
And Portland can hurt you. Portland can hurt you. And so I think what helps Houston is that they have home court advantage. And they'll be inspired in this series to do what they do on their home court. They may need every one of those games to win this series.
Okay. So if it does come to Houston versus San Antonio round 2, what will finally hamper the Rockets is Dwight's lack of high basketball IQ, especially on offense in the fourth quarter, and his lack of tenacity. Like, I'm the man, give me the ball, get out of my way. I've never seen that from Dwight, and you would have to see it from Dwight to beat Duncan and company in the next round.
Yeah, but in this series, he just needs to be that three-time defensive player
that he's been. Yeah, okay. During the regular season, the Rockets actually won their season series 3-1. A totally different game, though, obviously, when the postseason starts.
When you look at the NFL quarterback, there are certain attributes you must have to be successful in the National Football League. And when I look at Zach Mettenberger, I see those abilities, those attributes. I believe Zach Mettenberger would be on a lot of people's big boards, near the top of them, actually, if he didn't suffer the injury. Now, he showed last week that he's healthy. I think a lot of people would love to have Zach Mettenberger on their roster.
Ron Jaworski giving LSU's Zach Mettenberger props as we get ready for May's NFL draft. And looking at Jaw's top 5 quarterback prospects, he has Mettenberger at number 2, ahead of one Johnny Manziel.
What?
Yeah, he has him at number 2, ahead of Johnny.
Come on.
Bring it,
bro.
Bring it, bro, is what he's saying.
Come on.
Convince us,
I love
kind
you,
sir.
but
I wish I could have the tape right here, that you could come and join me at my office at NFL Films.
Oh.
Lean back as I run at play after play after play and study and evaluate these quarterbacks. For the NFL season, I look at most of the games on the coach tape. Don't have the time to look at every one. And I don't mean this in a bragging way, but I know what an NFL quarterback is supposed to look like. Mettenberger looks like an NFL quarterback. When you watch him play, and Cam Cameron, who coached Joe Flacco with the Baltimore Ravens, did a great job with him last year. You see the NFL attributes: tall, stand in the pocket, 6'5", 238, can drive the football from the far hash to deep sideline, can read coverage. I use the Alabama game as a good template because that is a terrific defense that's well coached and has great athletes. And in that game, he read coverage well. He threw every throw you have to make, the deep sideline, the digs. And most importantly, this is true in the NFL. You better be tough. Because you're going to have to look down that gun barrel and know that defensive tackle or defensive end or blitzing linebacker or blitzing safety is going to hit you right in the mouth. And you got to hang in there and deliver the football. And he does that. And that plays well in the locker room. So that's why I like Mettenberger as much as I do.
Ron Jaworski, I cannot express to you how much respect I have for your position on this. I cannot express to you how much I believe Zach Mettenberger is the prototype pro prospect for all the reasons you just detailed. But I just watched the games carefully on television, and I carefully watched Zach twice against Saban's Alabama, and then I watched Johnny Football twice against Saban's Alabama. And I saw one rare competitor, and I saw another guy who was just solid but unspectacular. He made a lot of nice throws. LSU lost both games to Alabama. And Johnny Manziel put on two of the all-time college shows against Saban's defense I have ever witnessed. The first was the upset of the year 2 years ago in Tuscaloosa, and you have looked at that tape.
Yes, I did.
And Cliff Kingsbury, then his quarterback coach, now the Texas Tech coach, told me after that game that Johnny made 3 throws in the fourth quarter, bless you, of that game, that Cliff has not seen any better than those 3 throws that he made to beat Saban's defense. And in the 49-42 loss at College Station to open this football season, Johnny Manziel had 562 total yards against Saban's defense, which prompted Nick Saban to say at the end of the year, in my 40, I'm paraphrasing slightly, but in my 40 years of coaching, I have never run across a more competitive football player than Johnny Manziel. Zach Mettenberger, I don't think, scared Nick Saban. I think Johnny Manziel scared him to death for a whole offseason as he tried to figure out a way to stop him in College Station early last year, and he could not stop him.
I can't answer what Nick Saban felt to your question. That he was scared of him. I'm not quite so sure that would be the proper word, but I respect everything you're saying. I have no problem. I can easily come back and say, hey, plug in the LSU game, the Missouri game, and Johnny Manziel you wouldn't take in the first 3 rounds. But this is a process. It's 2012. Johnny Manziel got better from 2012 to 2013. What we have to do is evaluate these players to the next level. Johnny Manziel is one of the greatest collegiate quarterbacks ever to put on the helmet. Ever.
Yeah.
So was Tim Tebow. So was Vince Young. So were Danny Werfel. And the list goes on and on and on.
I wouldn't put Werfel in there, but go ahead.
Okay. Gino Toretta. Heisman. Okay. My job here as an analyst at ESPN is to project them to the National Football League, the next level. And how does their present skill set, and I like to call them attributes that you have to have long-term success in the National Football League. And I project Mettenberger, despite what anyone may think, as a better projection to the NFL. Okay. I could be wrong. No. You could be wrong. We could all be wrong.
Well, let's not entertain the possibility of being wrong, even though that's a reality. Damn it, we're on TV. We believe we're right.
I like that.
Okay, here we go. Now, here's the deal. When you talk about Mettenberger, how much does the 6'5", 235 frame factor into those projections as you're concerned in comparison to Johnny Football Watch? I actually watched the whole session of the quarterback camp with Johnny Football and John Gruden the other day. 5'11 and a half, You know, how much does that
Three quarters.
They did 5 11 and 3/4. You're right. He's right.
Sure,
He's
it's
right.
not
5 11
7/8.
3/4. That's right. That's
He's
right.
going to measure him after the show. Hey.
That's nearly a 6-inch height difference. How much does that factor into the equation of what George is talking about? Is there something else?
You know, I'm really upset at myself right now because I didn't bring my quarterback attribute sheet with me. It's in the green room.
Okay.
And size is one of those attributes. Now, the one thing that I'm able to do at my office NFL films when I look at the tape is see the sideline, the end zone, and I watch quarterbacks. I have access to some NFL films video, these low angles. The NFL films guys are the best in the business of what they do, getting these close-up shots. And shorter quarterbacks have a tougher time. I love Russell Wilson. I love the guy. I think what he's accomplished is absolutely mind-boggling. But I can watch him, and I see him move, and I see him duck, and I see him try to get up. He doesn't see very well. So at that stature, where I'm more the prototypical Troy Aikman kind of guy, big in the pocket, over-top delivery, not as many batted balls, don't have to move as much because you can see down the field. So I think size is important. And if you look at history, you know, it's like once every 10 years do you get a Doug Flutie, a Drew Brees, a Russell Wilson. So it's all percentage, Stephen. What's your best percentage chance? And I think size helps.
Totally get that. And I ask these questions and I'm asking as opposed to debating because he's watched Mettenberger much more than I have. He's watched Johnny Football more than I have. So I respect where he's coming from. Obviously, I respect where you're coming from. I guess what I'm looking at is the size is one factor. But I'm also thinking about, with everything that you just said, with how important those attributes are, we haven't been hearing about Mettenberger. We've been hearing about Johnny Football. We've been hearing about Bridgewater. We've been hearing about Bortles. We've been hearing about all of these guys. And now here comes up the rear. Mettenberger. We heard about that.
I like it. And that's what's good. Well, who is putting these guys up there? Why are we now just hearing about Tommy Savage?
Yeah.
Okay? You watch him play. He's that Mettenberger kind of clone. Yeah. Why is Tommy Savage now going to visit 18 or 19 teams or bring him in? Well, because we manufacture the Johnny Footballs on television. It's not the coach's job or the personnel director's job to manufacture these guys as NFL players. Their job is to look and study at the tape.
Wait, hold on. Say that. I get that. And I understand that's their job. But what I'm trying to say to you is that it's not like, and this is where I'm going to protect the industry. It's not like reporters just said, let me throw this name out. These NFL people are telling them this stuff. And all I'm saying to you is this. Whether it's Clowney, the Khalil Macks of the world, whether it's Johnny Manziel with Bridgewater and Bortles and Carr and all of these guys, we haven't heard about a guy that you just brought up who's in the SEC, who's won 10 games over the last couple of years, who's 6'5", 235, and by the way plays for Les Miles, who brings all the attention to his program one could muster. That's where I'm going.
Well, let me say, there's a reason, too. He did have knee surgery. He did have the knee injury, which everyone kind of knocked him down because of that. He worked out last week, and he was 90%. And actually had a very solid workout.
I like Zach Mettenberger a lot. And the tape I would ask people to go back and look at is the one at Georgia when he went home to play where he started in school at Georgia. That shootout with Aaron Murray was spectacular.
And he lost.
I saw some pro football throws.
Took a heck of a play.
But hey, it took a heck of a play, and it was back and forth. That's when I said Zach can play at the next level. I'm talking about a very good player. He could be a starting quarterback. He could certainly be a very quality backup quarterback for a long time in this league, but he could start for somebody. But here's the comparison. He has Matt Schaub-like ability. And well, listen. You've liked Matt Schaub. Hey, listen.
He doesn't move very well.
Okay.
Look,
Here's
that's the part of the game that will hurt him.
Now we're back to the Texans. This is my point. In the end, with these quarterbacks, you were a terrific quarterback, a Super Bowl quarterback, and in your heart of hearts, you have to throw out the prototype in the end and say, what's in his heart, what's in his soul, what's in his gut? Does he really believe he can beat anybody at any moment, at any time? Matt Schaub does not. When push comes to shove, when Matt Schaub had to make the throw that put the Texans over the top, he's not capable of making the throw. He can make a whole lot of other throws, okay? But Johnny Manziel is a rare competitor. I'll take Johnny 7 days a week over Matt Schaub, and Matt Schaub can make every throw in the book. He's a terrific NFL quarterback, but can he win games that must be won. Johnny will win those games.
That's always unknown how a player will react under pressure. In fact, what some coaches are now doing in the National Football League are going where they train fighter pilots. So they want to know how they're going to react under pressure.
Yes.
So when they evaluate the quarterback position,
I agree.
They've got valid information, so they know Johnny Manziel. That's a very valid point. In big games, he played well. But they want to put these guys in a stressful situation, see how they react.
I'm just confused. You're saying that prospective quarterbacks are actually taken?
No, coaches are going see how they train fighter pilots and how they react under pressure so they can evaluate the quarterbacks.
Okay. Back to the big picture. I want to remind you, I sat here before these quarterbacks were drafted, and I said, I'm not buying them as first-round picks. Gabbert, Ponder, Jake Locker, Tannehill, Geno. Those are just off the top of my head.
That's very good, by the way, if you didn't see him that way.
I did not see them that way, and you can check the tape before those drafts on this show. Why? Because I did not, in watching them only on television, see that supreme self-belief. I did not see fighter pilot in any of those guys. I saw talent in all of them. And by the way, Jake Locker, I'm still not done with him yet because he's as competitive in his own way as Johnny Manziel is. He's not as accurate, and I'm not sure. He's been in a tough spot. I'm not going to dismiss him, but he has had his struggles in Tennessee.
And still health-wise, yes.
Yeah, and he's had all kinds of problems.
I thought he was ascending last year. The injury obviously hurt him, but I think it's still a little premature to evaluate a Tannehill, and although Ponder has been very inconsistent. But I think from a knee-jerk reaction, that's a pretty good evaluation.
Okay, so back to Manziel. So he is 5'11 3/4. But I'm talking about the biggest heart, or as big a heart as I have ever seen. I'm talking about as special a playmaker. And again, it's just college football, but it is the Southeastern Conference I have ever seen in college football.
My question to you, Skip Bayless, playing the devil's advocate, is what does that have to do with once you get popped silly enough times, simply because, as George and others have said, your size is an impediment, not just in terms of visibility when you're throwing the football, which is something that I brought up about Johnny Manziel, about Michael Vick and
Cam Newton
and others. My problem is that when I have reservations about Johnny football, it's not about his ability to throw the football. It's not about his ability to make plays. It's about his height deficiency, and it's about how many blows can he endure. What about that?
Okay, if we're talking about toughness, this is as tough a quarterback as is in this class. And you brought that up earlier because that's a key trait here. Some guys just aren't tough enough to play in the league. You were tough, man. I watched you with the Ram teams. You stood in and took your punishment. Then you go to Philadelphia. That was something that put you over the top, was your physical and mental toughness. And if you don't have that, you will wash out of this league quickly. Manziel has that. But you're talking more about durability.
Yes.
The most important ability of all.
I don't think he's scared to do anything.
He's not afraid. In fact, to a fault, he's not afraid.
But that's the whole point.
Okay. Well, we've talked and talked. He's talked and talked about it. I can't do, he says, what I used to do, what I tried to do against Auburn at the goal line because I was trying to win the game against, by the way, a team that got to the national championship game. He could have put them away by scoring on the scramble up the middle. I don't know if you remember this play. And he took on 3 Auburn Tigers near the goal line, and he lost because he got his shoulder knocked down, had to go in and take a shot, came back, and still hit his next 7 passes in a row. That is true toughness. But you can't do it in the next league because you won't get up from that shot that you took in the next league. You'll have a broken shoulder, you'll have a broken collarbone, and you'll miss the next whatever games are left in the year. So he's going to have to grow up and realize you just have to slide. And I think he's highly capable of sliding.
Skip, and here's what the process is all about. This is what all these GMs, all the personnel guys are in that room like we're doing right now, talking about it. And they're making that projection. You know, can he last? That's the one thing that's been consistent. Every coach, GM, personnel guy I speak to is, you know, is he durable enough? And that's the word. It's durability. He's tough as hell. That's not the part no one questions that. But can you take those hits? That is a concern. And then you look at the attribute of playing the quarterback position, beside the height and all that. Can you read coverage? You know, I don't know that because his system didn't mandate that he do that. It was a design to get the ball here, get the ball there. So I can't answer that, and I don't think anyone can answer that. So you have to project how good will he be at reading coverage? How good will he be at anticipating throws? I think he's a throw-open guy. When I look at the tape, I see him when the guy gets open, he throws it. In the NFL, you got to anticipate the receiver getting open. Okay, can he get better?
I think he has high football IQ. I think he has.
And he's got a 32-1 lick, so the guys. None of those are questions. None of those are. Can he make all the throws? I was concerned about the inconsistent deep ball. The pro day dispelled some of those concerns I had. I know it's pro day.
Yeah, how does pro day?
Hey, Stephen A. It's critical. Now I'll give you the negative example. I went into the pro day workouts with Teddy Bridgewater based on film study as my most NFL ready guy. I'm a number one quarterback. Get a lot of good things on tape, and I don't want to get off on Teddy Bridgewater. I really liked his game, and I still like his game very much. But I went to his pro day, and really the ball did not come out of his hand clean. It was wobbly. It hung a little bit. He was more of an arm thrower. I don't know if he just had a bad day or not. But
he said it was a bad day.
Didn't he look nervous to you?
He was, no question about it. And I thought,
he didn't have on gloves that day where he usually throws with gloves.
But again, that's a custom workout day. You're a pro day, man. You got to ace it like Johnny did. You got to ace that bad boy, man, because it's customized for you. Oh, by the way, in collegiate football, these quarterbacks have their own ball, They let a little air out, they squeeze a little different,
Okay.
So now they got better control of that football. You go to these pro days and combines and all that. Now you're throwing the NFL ball. It's not even a custom ball like a custom workout where you're supposed to wow people. So there's a lot of little things that are in the quarterback's favor. That, again, I'm just projecting. These are all the things that personnel guys are talking about every single day.
Okay, but I'm going to respect your gut feeling. You've watched a lot of tape. Sit back right now and say, is it possible that Zach Mettenberger, who you really like off the tape, could wind up being the best of this entire class?
Oh, yeah, he could be.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's where we're heading with this, right?
No, yeah, he could be. That's the beauty of this. No one really knows. Teams are paying these guys millions of dollars to make these decisions, and they're wrong half the time.
Half the time they're
wrong. What you're saying is, yes, they're wrong half the time. But the one place you can't be wrong is the quarterback position. I would say this. The one place you can't be wrong, or the second place you can't be wrong, is the number one overall. You've got to get that. That's once in a career opportunity to have the number one overall pick. And Skip, I got to come back to you again because I want to make sure that Skip. I'm looking out for you, Skip.
No,
I got
Skip needs a lot of help.
The number one overall pick on a guy at the quarterback position that folks say might not even be a first rounder in their eyes. You're saying take him number one overall. Number one overall, Skip. That big of a question, you take that shot?
No, maybe.
I would take it, and I would run right to the bank with it because my Houston Texans next year would be 10-6. If you're asking me to make the pick, I would go 10-6 next year and make the playoffs and scare people in the playoffs with Johnny Manziel at quarterback. With all the things that are left in Houston already,
you're acknowledging that you Bill O'Brien. You're placing your career. I mean, that's a career decision right there.
I told you what this comes down to. That owner is going to have to decide between a coach who's never coached a game in the NFL as a head coach and Johnny Manziel. That's what he's going to have to decide between.
The owner making the decision is easy because he's not just thinking football, he's thinking potential box office. And not only that, he can't be fired. So the point is, it's not that tough. It's a tough decision, but it's not that tough. If you're Bill O'Brien and you got bosses to answer to, I'm talking if you're Bill O'Brien and the owner sits back and go like this, you do what you want to do. What you think?
Ron
That's a tough spot.
Consider what he just said.
Keep that
you
tape.
get the final thought.
About
what he just
Johnny?
Said. Yeah.
I wouldn't take him at 1. I probably wouldn't take him in the first round. I think it's a flavor you really have to like in Johnny Manziel. That doesn't mean he can't be a great NFL quarterback. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he's not my guy.
He's not your cup of tea, and he hasn't been. You love the 6'5", 235-pound.
I believe in the NFL you play from the pocket first.
I like that, but I want somebody that can run, though. I don't want to see a quarterback that can't run anymore.
The Polish Rifle, also known as Ron, Jaworski, or Jaws, all your names. Thank you so much, Jaws, for hanging out with us.
This will continue.
It will continue. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our final take. Kobe started his European vacation early before the Lakers' regular season concluded. Just a day, not much. And according to our Ramona Shelburne, Kobe can actually start running and shooting this week. He still has high hopes for the Lakers next season because you know what? This is what he tweeted. Take a look. Poop season. I'm going to say poop. Flush it. Forget it. Hashtag amnesia. Next season will be epic. Hashtag blackout. Hashtag bus family. Yeah, I'm sighing too, and I haven't even asked the question. Will the Lakers be better?
Well, first of all, they will absolutely be better because they can't be worse. They're horrible this year. We understand that. Kobe Bryant being in the lineup, they'll be fine. They'll probably have a new coach. I'm not knocking Mike D'Antoni the way we did last year because he had nothing to work with this year. It's not his fault. It's just that the city of Los Angeles doesn't want him. He wasn't the right man for the job because he's the guy that was there instead of Phil, and they ain't going to get over that. So he just needs to get a job somewhere else. It's not his fault this year, but it is what it is. In the end, the Black Mamba is the Black Mamba, and he will elevate you to respectability. He'll need help to go beyond that, but he will clearly make the Lakers better because they can't be worse.
He said epic.
Well, let's not get ridiculous.
Okay. Didn't the Mamba
not by himself.
Didn't he just already get a magic shot over in Germany in his knee?
Not just that, but he's over there, chilling with the family.
Well, but okay. Well, I'm good, but I only care about the magic shot that he gets in
he's
the
gonna
knee
be all
over
right.
in Germany.
He's going to be okay.
I think he will bounce back, and I think he will be pretty close to being the Mamba. And you can laugh all you want at this, but I watched every dribble of the San Antonio Laker game last night. The Lakers have some players on that team. Jordan Hill looked good.
Again, don't San Antonio, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, but did San Antonio mail it in? They did.
Sure.
But again, I look down that roster. There's some kids who can play a little bit on that roster. Now they need to go get some other older people.
They got to get a max player, and I hope they get Embiid from Kansas.
Okay, let me ask you, who's the max player?
I don't know, but I'd love to see Kevin Love with a Kobe, but he's not a free agent until next summer, not this summer, or Carmelo, but I don't see that happening as long as D'Antoni's there as the coach.
Okay.
I don't see Carmelo going
Too many questions. D'Antoni still the coach? D'Antoni still the coach?
No, I don't believe that.
Calipari's still the coach?
In Kentucky.
In Kentucky.
Oh, in Kentucky, not the Lakers. Thanks for listening to our podcast, and you don't want to miss tomorrow. Tune in for our NBA playoff predictions. You can catch First Take Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2.
What makes the Indy 500 the greatest spectacle in racing?
Back home again.
We are playing. Everyone in the grandstands are on their feet.
You're now a winner of the Indianapolis 500, my friend.
The Indianapolis 500, Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on ABC.